NSW, Reddit. What is something that happened at a sleepover which you will never forget? My friend got obscene text from his mom that was meant for her boyfriend. It specifically said the boyfriend's name in it, so I'm certain it wasn't an incest thing. The look on his face, and the graphic detail in the text, was the funniest freaking thing I have ever witnessed. I couldn't fall asleep because I was laughing for hours. Mom, I don't want a corn cob in my butt. We were all around 8-10 years old, and it's about 11 PM after spending all day with the birthday boy's aunt, his legal guardian. We're watching Wild Wild West when out of nowhere one of the boys says to my friend's aunt, "You have great knockers." She said thank you, and we all continued watching the movie. What a nice boy. First time I ever saw P was at a sleepover and it totally blew my mind. Had no idea that there was this whole world of physical possibilities beyond like awkwardly humping my pillow. Like awkwardly humping a person. I was around 7 years old. I had a rich friend named Kevin who could afford all sorts of cool toys because his dad imported and exported them, along with other goods. During one sleepover, he brought over one of those remote control fart boxes. Instead of playing with it, we hatched a master plan to sneak it under my parents' bed and unleash its power when they were going to bed. We waited for hours. Finally, when the clock struck midnight, we let it loose. PHHHFFFFFRTTT. Goddamn. Alden. My mother. But it wasn't over. We didn't spam. We waited for them to settle, and let it go again and again. Finally we couldn't take it anymore. My parents had heard us cracking up and my dad, as boisterous with his coal in his ears, realized it wasn't his butt. That is a quality story. I used to be best friends with the popular girl at school, and our group of friends had sleepovers all the time. One night when we were around 12 years old, I woke up all wet and she convinced me that it was really hot and we had just sweated a lot. Then I started to think about the plastic cover on her bed and frequency changing, and it all made sense. She had peed the bed and, well, me. Some people have to pay extra for that. Back when prank calling was fun, we got a buddy to prank his own mom. He didn't know it was his mom though. A rough transcript of the event. Zach, come blow me B. Zach mom. Zach. Zach, mom. Zach mom. Get your butt home now. He was upset with us. Winner. Okay, not a sleepover technically but more of a trip away. My class went to a trip away and the boys slept in one room and girls another. Now on one of the last days of the week-long trip, one of the boys in my class decided it would be a great idea for all of us to wank together at the same time. So a group of 17 boys wanking furiously in sleeping bags was definitely one of the must WTF am I doing moments of my life. We were 13/14 at the time. And that is a moment I will never forget. When I was 7 years old, me and my best friend back then heard gunshots outside his house late one night. It wasn't a completely unusual occurrence so we didn't think much of it until we went outside the morning after and found his dog had been hit by one of the bullets. Family friends moved to a farm in rural Wisconsin because they thought living on a farm would be fun. The high school kids would drive around the county drinking beer and shooting people's dogs. Because, you know, country folk are normal people. Luckily their dog only had a leg blown off. If I recall correctly, when they were finally caught they'd killed over 25 dogs and injured a lot more. When I was a kid my mom had a friend who would always bring her son over to hang out. Anyways they arranged a sleepover for us that he was especially stoked about. So it's lights out and he almost immediately starts crying. He kept saying my mom wanted a girl over and over. I'm still not sure what happened. That's heartbreakingly awkward. Staying the night at a friend's house with a bunch of our buddies when we were all in our mid-teens. We're all sleeping on the floor in this large room, fairly spaced apart, almost zero light. The slightly older sister of the friend whose house it was had been flirting with one of the guys all night, and while we were all asleep she snuck into the room. I think I was the only one still awake. From what I could make out in the darkness, she crawled over to the guy she'd been flirty with, slid under his blanket, got on top of him and started grinding away. He had the biggest grin the next morning but would answer, "I'm just happy to be here with you guys," whenever asked. From what I could make out in the darkness, she crawled over to the guy she'd been flirty with, slid under his blanket, and asked for duang. FTFY. I was in preschool and sleeping at a friend's house down the street with my sister. In the middle of the night I woke up to screaming and glass shattering, so I got out of bed and followed the noise into the lounge room. His parents were screaming at each other and throwing things around the room, and when they saw me the mother came running over and pushed me back into the bedroom and shut the door. Not something I'll forget anytime soon. A friend's mom and her fella started to frick when they thought everyone was asleep. I wasn't. His mum thought she was being quiet. She wasn't. And being a 14-year-old boy, I could not help but do the needful. Dude, I was over my friends for a sleepover when we were like 11, and his parents just start going at it in the bedroom next door. It's like 7 PM and they have like 6 kids and they're all awake. My friend just looks at me and casually says "Mum please," and then goes back to playing video games. Once I had a friend over and he puked what looked like a gallon of mashed potatoes in my bed and blamed it on my 15-pound dog who was locked in his kennel. Frick Brad. Brad told me to tell you he's not sorry and he would puke on your bed again if he had the chance. Was about 8 or 9 years old at my mate's house watching The Exorcist. My mate's dad thought it would be funny to go outside and lift the window shutters up and scream through the window. Freaking terrifying. Too young to be watching The Exorcist. Too old to be screaming through windows pranking kids. I wet the bed at a friend's house one time. The next morning, I told him that I grabbed lemonade from the fridge in the middle of the night and spilled a whole cup. I was like 8. They didn't have lemonade. Another kid and I got into the same sleeping bag and touched our dongs together because we thought it would mean we had lost our virginities. The other boys sat in a circle around us, egging us on. It was actually a lot like the last scene of Requiem for a Dream. TL. DR. Dong to dong. Better than going butt to butt and trying to crap in someone else's butt. TL. DR. Butt buddies. New Year's Eve, 99-2000. I was 12. I woke up with a sleeping bag full of pee and my hand in a bowl of water. Until the end of the school year, they made fun of me for not being Y2K compliant. That's actually pretty funny. I had a big birthday party sleepover when I was 11 or 12 and invited a bunch of my friends to spend a night. My mom made me invite the kid from down the road who was in my grade, but I never really noticed him. He was really small and took a lot of medicine. Anyway, he wet the bed that night and was humiliated by everyone there, including me. I saw him on the bus the following week, and I felt bad about what happened. We became best friends and hung out most weekends until the end of high school. He told me that he had a liver transplant in kindergarten and was facing some serious health threats in the future. We remained close, and last summer his liver failed and he passed away in hospice care at the age of 25. TL. DR. Weird neighbor kid pee the bed. Became best friends until his passing. We lost touch after high school, which has happened with most of my old friends. He messaged me on Facebook this time last year, wanting to catch up. We chatted for a bit and I told him I would visit him the next time I was in town. He didn't say anything about his failing health, but I wish he had. I would have made a special trip back home to see him. It's been a year and I've been thinking about him more than usual lately. I miss him a lot. That's really heartwarming. W. Not particularly eventful or steamy, but when I was in middle school my friend had a birthday party sleepover with about 8-10 girls. Around 10 PM we decide to all sneak out and go TP some boy's house. We go and TP the house. Then we realize we are lost and don't know how to get back to her house. So, we find the closest main road and start walking down it. About 8-10 middle school girls in their PJs. So, naturally a police officer stops us and asks what we are doing out so late. Must have been a really awesome cop because we make up some stupid story about looking for a lost cat. We all pile in the car and he takes us back to her house, where we ask him to turn off the lights and let us walk up. I stepped on the baby's head. Never figured out why the baby was on the floor in the middle of the night, but it scared the crap out of me. The baby was fine. I like how you called it the baby like we knew him her personally. Friend's birthday party. I was 12. I took a giant crap, flushed the toilet and walked away. An hour later his mom yelled from the bathroom, "OMF, there's crap everywhere." The 5 of us went to the bathroom, see a thin layer of water and runny crap all over the floor with his mom angrily staring at us. Everyone knew it was me and pointed it out immediately. I was never allowed at his house again. I still run into his mom sometimes and I can tell she still isn't over it. I hate pee toilets. Every toilet should be those power flushing versions, not the one that clogs every other time. My best friend from ages 7-14 was a very tomboyish girl, and one time when I was around 11, I was sleeping over her house. This time, 2 of her attractive female cousins happened to be there for the evening as well. I forget how it came up, but they started talking about how they had never seen a dong, and were asking me to show them. Now, I was a shy kid and raised by very conservative parents, so this took a little bit of persuading, but after an hour of them asking, we went into her bedroom, shut the door, and I whipped it out. This kid actually put a commercial break into his story. When we were about 15, my buddy stole some alcohol from his parents and invited me over to drink it with him. When I got there I went to take a crap, and was only gone about 5 minutes, and when I came back, he drank almost all of it. I called him an butthole and drank the bit that was left, which actually got me a good buzz. We decided to watch a movie and I noticed he wasn't looking good. Then he puked all over the floor. His mom was downstairs and I didn't want to get caught, so I started cleaning it up. But he kept puking, like 3 other piles. I got him to the bathroom and he looked at me and said, "Guess what?" I said, "What?" And he started peeing his pants and then laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world. I got him back to his bed and he barfed again. This was like the 4th or 5th pile and I'd only gotten one cleaned up, and not cleaned up very well. I was kinda drunk. He got out of bed and took his pee-soaked pants and underwear off and was looking for new pants, and I decided that I'd had enough. I wasn't going to deal with barf and a drunk naked person who was doing nothing to help the situation. On my way out the door I told his mom he wasn't feeling well and left. When I got home my parents knew I was drunk and grounded me. His mom blamed everything on me and called my parents to tell them that I got her little angel drunk. Frick those kind of parents. I was like 12. This girl was 13 and she wouldn't shut up about this boy she liked, so I pretended to fall asleep. Give me an Oscar for my acting, because she obviously thought I really was snoozing, and proceeded to place my hand on her bum. I guess she was pretending I was this guy she wouldn't shut up about. Did what I thought was the most convincing sleep role in acting history. You know, with like the content sounding breathing because you're finding a new comfortable position. I then silently cried myself to sleep. I'm a straight female for your information. Eye for an eye. Squeeze a butt and scream honk honk. I remember a sleepover my older sister had. 2 years difference. They were being loud and crap, so I went down to the den in the basement to play video games. Eventually they got into a truth or dare situation and my sister's friend Miranda was dead to streak through the room I was in. 13-year-old me will never forget that. Ran into that girl at a bar like 12 years later. 8/10 would bang. Good God, why did you pass up the opportunity? Slept at friend's house. Friend has cat. Woke up with cat sleeping on face. I panic. Cat panics because I'm panicking. Cat claws my face. I have hated cats ever since. We were a bunch of 10-year-old girls. Immediately one girl became the group B. I forget how, but after she fell asleep we all tried to put her fingers in water. She didn't pee, so we decided to just frick with her and move her in her sleep so she'd wake up on the coffee table and not know how she got there. She woke up as we were attempting to transport her, and had a surprisingly good attitude about it. Then we all felt kind of bad. This story is an emotional roller coaster. My friend just screamed in the middle of the night. I heard it because I had trouble sleeping in a bed that wasn't my own. He just freaking yelled out. In hindsight he was probably just having a dream and sleep talking yelling, but when I was 8 it was kinda terrifying. I, female, made out with a girl for the first time. We both had boyfriends. Neither of them were there. She was very religious and cried afterwards. Both of our boyfriends forgave us. Later realized I'm not straight. So this is how it happens. I always imagine it started at a softball game. Had a party for my 13th birthday with a bunch of mates. We all slept in the lounge room in sleeping bags. By about 2 AM one of the guys had fallen asleep. so we decided the only suitable course of action was to mess with him. Thankfully he was a sleep talker, so this made things super easy. After making him respond to ridiculous comments, and making him sing the original Pokemon theme, while we were all trying to laugh silently so as not to wake up parents, my friend, we'll call him Ben, because that was his name, started clicking in his ear. Andrew, the sleeper, said out loud, "Stop clicking your fingernails," sister's name, which obviously caused Ben to do it more. So, still sleeping, Andrew decides the best way to retaliate is to take a swing at his sister, socking Ben square in the face in the process. It took 4 of us to hold Ben back from killing Andrew, who rolled over and let out a snore, blissfully unaware of the situation he had barely escaped from intact. Andrew is awake, a decent actor, and got a free shot at Ben. My best friend Pete's dad left Pete's mom after his mom confronted him about his infidelity. Pete and I were playing video games and Pete was rather apathetic. I thought he had a good relationship with his dad up through that point, but I found out later Pete knew about his dad and didn't think too highly of it. We were both 11. The Adventures of Pete and Pete's Dad. It was this kid's 12th birthday party and things got really weird really fast. Long story short, the kids started showing each other their dongs, me excluded, and the birthday boy started jacking off in front of everyone. That story will stick with me forever. When I was like 14, I went to my best friend's house for a sleepover. They were twin brothers and their other friend was over, too. In the middle of the night we decided to all look up pee, so we did and started all masturbating together. Eventually we weren't even looking at the pee, but watched each other jerking off our dongs. We all watched each other CM and it was the first time I ever saw other dudes jizzing. None of us ever mentioned it again, but I turned out gay and the others turned out straight, maybe. Well, I mean, that is the ritual you have to perform to convert. I was sleeping over at a neighbor girl's house. I remember her stepdad coming into the room in the middle of the night and didn't think much of it and fell back asleep. She proceeded to confide in me the next day that he had been molesting her and we both decided it was a bad idea to tell her mom because we were afraid to get in trouble. I think she was 8 and I was 9. I moved shortly after that and lost touch with her. Deeply disturbing. Hope she's okay. 3rd grade. A bunch of us were sleeping in my friend's living room in a row. I was on the end of the row, closest to the French doors that led to the back deck. I rolled over, away from the group, toward the glass doors and saw a skull-headed figure lying on its side, facing me, out on the deck, right up against the door. I froze, thinking I must be seeing things, for what seemed like an hour. I'm sure my eyes were huge. Eventually, the skull-headed thing stood up and walked away. I'm pretty sure it was my friend's older brother in a mask, but I never said a word about it to anyone. One night my friend and I decided to have a sleepover at her house, which I always thought had a weird vibe to it. Creepy things always happened there. Anyways, that particular night we decided to watch The Ring at 1 AM. When the movie was over and both of us were truly freaked out, we decided to put on the Comedy Channel. For some reason the tape the network was playing had an issue and started playing backwards, and then her phone rang. From the time the movie ended, to the backwards tape, to the phone ringing, it was no more than 5 minutes. We flipped out, but as teenagers decided we better answer the phone. Turned out to be some drunk dude drunk dialing random numbers. We ended up chatting with him for a half hour, had a good laugh, and went to bed. This didn't happen to me, but my brother told me about a sleepover he was at in middle school. The host friend suggested playing Truth or Dare. Everyone agreed. The host friend went first and dared himself to stick a marker up his own butt. As the marker entered the butt, my brother and a couple other friends escaped out of the window and ran home. Was staying the night at my friend's house when I was around 14. His little brother decided to skate down the road at 11 at night, on a road with no streetlights, on the wrong side of the road. Brother gets hit by a car, and when the call came into his dad, the tension was almost palpable. Thankfully he wasn't hurt too bad, but the sight of his dad bursting into tears and screaming and then punching a wall was not something I'll easily forget. Had a sleepover with my so and lost my virginity. Actual sleepover with friends. My best friend tried to convince me ducks were mammals. In my 20s, I threw a sleepover. I invited a guy that I intended to set up with a friend. Turns out my friend went back to her ex. I become great friends with guy. That guy is now my husband. Best sleepover ever. Yay, happy endings. It was 4th grade. All girl sleepover. We played truth or dare. There were IDK 5 or 6 of us. Well, needless to say I had my first lesbian experience. We all took turns giving each other pecks on the lips. Was a group of around 6 guys at a friend's house while his parents were out of town. We had all been drinking, and I woke up around 7 AM to take a leak. Walked past his family's computer to see one of the guys jerking it to 2 girls 1 cup. Yup. I had to read that twice. I spent the night at my friend's house for the first time. She is bi but has a girlfriend whom I'm actually good friends with. But both being girls at all, we slept in the same bed. I didn't think it to be a problem because I'm straight and she knows that, so it's normal, right? Yeah, no, I woke up in the middle of the with fingers in my crotch. Completely mortified, and I just froze there in shock and terror. She realizes I'm awake and simply says, "Oh sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up," then rolls over and goes back to sleep. I did not sleep that night and left as soon as possible the next morning. I was basically violated by my friend's older sisters when I was 11. He was being a jerk and refused to get off his computer, so I went to hang with them. They talked me into hiding in the closet with them. Lots of things happened. They were 16 and 18, I think. Might have been 14 and 16. Hard to remember. I remember being naked on top of one while her sister was naked on top of me. They made me do things. I don't think it messed me up or anything. I didn't know what happened for years afterwards. I had so much other bad crap in my life at that time that night was just a curious blip on the radar. Honestly, that family was fricked up. Feel bad for the girls. In hindsight, I bet they were abused by the dad. That's awful. I can't imagine doing that to an 11-year-old. I'm really sorry, man. Mass hysteria and weird adult games between a bunch of 12-year-old Catholic school girls. I just kept on yelling at everyone to get the frick to sleep. So you were that person too. I was staying the night at a friend's house when I was 8 years old. My foster brother was there too. My friend asks if we want to see a cool trick. We say yes. He lays down on the floor, pulls his pants down and lifts his feet up to his face. He's wearing tighty whities. What happens next is so crystal clear in my memory. He farts and a small spot, about the size of a dime, begins to darken by his butthole. Then it gets darker and a hole appears before my very eyes. He burned a hole through his underwear with a fart. See, I told you you wouldn't believe me. I didn't believe it either. We told him to do it again. He did. This time I watched very closely, and after a minute of him getting a fart ready, he lets loose the same quiet fart with a short PFFTTT, and the fresh pair of briefs begins to darken. My foster brother and I are standing by, watching this featuring with scientific scrutiny. The dime-sized spot goes darker and darker. It does not look wet. There is no flame, though it looked like I was watching something burn in the sun. You know how sunlight makes flame nearly invisible? That's how this fart looked by the light of a bedroom lamp. So then the hole forms and all of this takes place in just 4 or 5 seconds. There is a little smoke, though I may have imagined it. The smell is like a fart plus hot rubber. My foster brother and I deliberate and request a third demonstration. He says he shouldn't because his mom gets mad when he burns holes in his underwear. It's not aliens or ghosts or Bigfoot. It's a young boy with the ability to burn a hole through cotton underwear with his flatulence. And I swear that it is true. Another odd thing was that his brother came in an hour earlier and offered us toothpaste. When we declined, he shrugged and ate a third of the tube in one squeeze. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.